Before we do allow these robots into our home and form emotional connections with them and allow them around our loved ones and have them as our caregivers, it is very likely that we will be wearing a pair of smart glasses that have AI embedded. And these new AI glasses are promising to give us superpowers.
Please welcome Dr. Helen Papagiannis.
Good morning, everyone. Toronto is my hometown, so I'm especially excited to be joining you. Now, today's event is personal for me for many reasons. Something you may not know about me is that my first job when I was 15 was working at a home for the aged here in Toronto. And that job shaped a lot of my thinking on human-centered design. But the role had nothing to do with technology. In fact, it was super analog. My first job was meeting with residents at a home for the aged, listening to them, and providing a form of companionship. Now, sometimes I would come home from work and cry, and it wasn't because I hated my job. In fact, I really loved my job. I had deep empathy for these residents. I could feel their loneliness and their pain. And today with AI, I do have my reservations about how AI will come to impact human connection. But I'm also highly hopeful and optimistic, especially with all the talent and brilliance in this room. Now, my work has always been human-centered. It's what drives me. And my book, Augmented Human, is all about the positive impact these new immersive and emerging technologies will have on humanity. So how can they extend and serve to amplify our human capacities, thereby extending things like knowledge, connection, and creativity? Today, we'll be looking at what it means to be an augmented human now and in the future through the lens of wellness, accessibility, and aging. We'll be exploring three key themes. They are connection to other humans, to ourselves, our surroundings, and even fostering emotional connections with AI. We'll be looking at independence and how accessibility technology can support aging in place and independent living, but also the importance of independence and critical thinking when it comes to engaging with AI. And lastly, we'll be looking at invisibility and this trend of technology receding into the background, but in that process, making sure that humans don't disappear as well. So let's begin with connection. Today, we are more digitally connected than ever before. And as we continue on this trajectory, it will be critical to understand the impact these new technologies will have on authentic human connection. There was a fascinating article in the Harvard Business Review recently that looked at the top 100 use cases of generative AI. And this was in comparison to last year's article. What they found was a staggering shift in the applications from technical to now emotional. In fact, the #1 use case was conversational AI for therapy and companionship. And so the previous year had been focused on productivity, so content creation, editing, and the new #1 spot was now personal development and personal support. So what does this all mean? Well, conversational AI is the gateway to humanoid robots that may also possibly become caregivers of the future. Because robots and wearables give AI physical form. But before we let humanoid robots into our homes, we are more likely to wear a pair of glasses, like the Ray-Ban Meta, for instance, that have AI embedded into them. Now, it's worth noting that OpenAI is working on hardware, and they are also major investors in Neo, the humanoid robot that you see vacuuming on the screen. And so all of this is coming a lot quicker than we may think. So it is crucial that we ask and understand how these AI chatbots are coming to affect our social and emotional well-being. And MIT partnered with OpenAI on a 4-week study where they looked at the psychosocial implications of conversational AI. And what they found was a higher daily usage of AI correlated with higher loneliness, dependence, and lower socialization. So the study, of course, more research is needed to understand the long-term impacts, but how can we use AI in a meaningful way that supports human flourishment and well-being? And researchers at MIT are investigating a new way to interact with conversational AI. It's something they call future you. And this is based on a future self continuity. So you are in fact speaking with an AI digital twin of yourself. And the study showed that this helped lead to better long-term thinking, in turn making better decisions, and perhaps even slowing the aging process. But robots aren't going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, they are running into our lives faster than ever. So as we see, assistive tech is becoming high fashion. And Meta already has several collaborations with luxury brands like Ferrari, like Coperni. The Coperni glasses were actually on the runway at Paris Fashion Week, and I have a pair. And this is all due to a really clever collaboration, a long-term partnership between Meta and Luxottica. And in 2021, Luxottica acquired a company called Nuance. Now, Nuance is a pair of audio assistive glasses. And unlike the Meta Ray-Ban, which are a mainstream device and happen to have accessibility features, Nuance is an accessible device. And I had the great pleasure of interviewing Bill Buxton, HCI guru, for my book, Augmented Human. And one of the things that Bill said was, when you design for the needs of a highly specialized user, you often end up designing something great for everyone. And when we look at the Nuance glasses, which again are designed for a very specialized user, it is an edge case, we could see how that technology could also be applied to the mainstream and a larger population. So for instance, think of a time maybe being in a restaurant where it's so loud. If you're able to wear these Nuance glasses or even have that technology built into the Meta Ray-Ban, you're able to amplify the audio of the person in front of you. The last point I want to make around independence is that when we are engaging with AI, it is absolutely critical that we are not just making AI smarter, but that we're also developing humans and our own cognitive abilities and questioning responses from AI rather than fully accepting it as truth. And researchers at MIT are working on new AI interfaces, in fact, that ask instead of tell. And this is all based on Socratic methods. So in this case, AI becomes a critical thinking stimulator rather than an information teller. The third category is invisibility. Now, I like to use the metaphor of a clear kayak for this idea of the interface disappearing and being more immersed in the experience rather than being bogged down with technology. And this is also symbolic of the future promises of AR and AI glasses. And whether it's a clear kayak or we call it UbiComp, ambient computing, or calm technology, it's all the same, really. The goal is the technology disappears into the background, becomes invisible, and lets you get on with the task at hand. And we already see this with things like haptics being embedded into our clothing. In this case, having the gentle vibrations in the yoga pants used perhaps for physical rehabilitation, or even in our smartwatches. And as technology becomes more and more invisible, it will be absolutely vital that humans don't disappear, because we've already been absorbed and lost in our mobile devices. And yes, eyewear has the promise of being heads up in the world, but I do wonder if we will have an AI perpetually whispering in our ear, and if we will truly be able to be present with someone. So as this next wave of AI and wearable tech evolves, it will be absolutely critical that we make mindful design choices, as well as have a mindful use of this technology to fully allow for genuine human connection, whether it's technology-based or not. Thank you so much.